Blessed be and welcome to Astro Psych. Thank you for joining me. My name is Kathleen, and we are going to be looking at the full moon in Gemini occurring December 4th at 13 degrees. And this occurs at 6:14 p.m. I'm using the Eastern Standard Time, Lynchburg, Virginia. Please adjust to where you are at in your location. Before we get started into the Gemini full moon, the cold moon, and some of the bigger themes for December and the closing out of this year, I want to bring us in with some clarity. And I want to bring us in with some sounds and tones that aren't like the earth tones of the gentle grounding and the beating, but perhaps tones that are of a higher frequency and wanting to elevate us in our consciousness, in our mind, in clarity of our conscious mind, and the way that we express ourselves and communicate with others, and our general posture with Mercury ruling the concrete, logical mind of daily life over Gemini and, of course, Virgo. All right, so what I want to do is just take some breaths here. I'm just going to clear the air for these messages coming in. Going to take 3 breaths in, 3 breaths out, but this time with my singing bowl, which is a little bit higher frequency, calling us to more an attentive state, a state where we can receive and not so much a meditative state of reflection. So here we go, 3 breaths. Take that last breath in. And out. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the general themes for December 2025 and then get into the full moon and its deeper themes and the new moon that we're going to be experiencing in Sagittarius and the solstice occurring, the winter solstice bringing us into Capricorn season. And as I sat with the Nine of Swords, which is the card for this moon, it is the card of number 9, representing the zodiac sign Gemini and the second decan of Gemini. This moon is 13 degrees, which brings us to the second decan of Mars, which is the 10 to 20 degree decan of Gemini. So we're going to dig a little deeper into what this card means and how it fits into these themes, and also the number 9 and also the number 13, as that number and that degree shows up with the nodes of fate as well, something we're going to be discussing. Sun and moon, of course, at 13 degrees opposite of one another, and the nodes of fate at 13 degrees opposite one another, reducing to 4 as well. Okay, so the themes that I have for this month and this full moon: transformative, honesty, and healing communication. There is a full moon in Gemini occurring December 4th, and Mars is trining Chiron. And the deeper meaning here is a climax in communication that's demanding new honesty in relationships, which simultaneously is activating a powerful and supportive phase of self-healing and personal growth. We have another theme of intuitive flow meeting focused structure. A grand water trine, December 6th and 7th. This is this effortless flow of the 120 degrees, beneficial energy that's bringing deep insight, emotional security, and a disciplined action that enables the easy completion here of these longer term projects and conversations, perhaps that you've had inside of yourself. Mercury ruling Gemini and Virgo, very much dealing with inner communication. So, this could be resolution also of some deep family matters. I go into that a little bit more deeper. We have the discipline of reality and the entrance of a check. And what this means is Mars is going to be squaring Saturn on December 9th, and the Sun squaring Saturn on December 17th. So we've got this friction between a drive to move out and the limits that are necessary and the limits that necessitate a pausing, an adjustment to our strategies, and an accepting of a responsibility for perhaps the way that we have communicated or not communicated. We have not used our Mercury in the best possible interests. Definitely will come out during these times of great tension and structure with squares, just wanting to readjust, as squares are, the dynamic aspect of Mars. And this is not easy energy. It lacerates. It can be very aggressive, especially in speech. It can be wounding, especially with the Sag energy I'm going to bring in this huge stellium we have going on, where Sagittarius is with immutable fire have been known to be blunt with their speech and speak out things perhaps rather rashly and too quickly. Finally, the fourth theme I have here is grounding ideals, moving from this dream state that we've been in with Saturn in Pisces, trying to bring some structures. But Neptune has been in Pisces, its Lord, bringing all of this water and all of this emotion, intuitive energy, and a lot of information coming in waves. But they've, as much as they've come in, they've cleared the way and they've been beneficial to maybe show us where we need to move from dream to duty. So a shift from expansive vision, Sagittarius, to concrete implementation, Capricorn energies moving from Sagittarius season to Capricorn season with the solstice coming in towards the end of the month. Challenges to our own idealistic expectations, like we have our own way of perceiving things, our own way of how our ideas want to come across. And this is in great conflict because Capricorn is going to challenge you with these idealistic expectations. A very serious energy here in Saturn and Capricorn and Earth, wanting some structures to all of this boundless confusion that we've been having in the long 14-year travesty. Traverse, I should say. Travesty is probably a better word. But traversing of Pisces and Neptune, this hasn't been easy energy. And I close out talking a little bit about that and bringing in some deeper understandings to the number 4 and how it also equates to the Emperor card. Closing out, asking us to come in here with some structures and look a little closer at some mindfulness tips and some meditative things that you could do to help harness This energy that's demanding our attention, mercurially in communication. So with that, let's go ahead and get started and look at this a little bit more closer. So our first week opens up in a sextile between Venus in Sagittarius and Pluto in Aquarius. And the theme here is a deeper meaning through connection and Pluto in Aquarius, idealism. So a sextile is harmonious. It's 60 degrees, and it offers us an opportunity for two planetary energies to work together. And think synergy here and synergistic medicine. And when I look at taking vitamins or minerals in my body, I look to synastry. And synastry is the way that a compound in your body reacts with other compounds in the body, but how it needs another compound to activate it, to make it assimilate better. And that's called synastry. And so without symmetry, we don't have the full opportunity and implementation of what these energies can do. It's a call to work together, okay? It's a call to take the turmeric with the black pepper. And them alone on their own, yeah, they have their own qualities, but when we combine them, we have a deeper and more meaningful alchemical reaction taking place. So it increases the rate of absorption and it increases the rate of connection. So look to this sextile of Venus and Sag and Pluto and Aquarius in your own chart and how this is communicating. Venus and Sag brings us this love of freedom, adventure, honesty, and wanting deep truths in relationships. It must have the truth here. It demands the truth. Sagittarius is the truth seeker. And values come into play here through Venus of people in our lives who can expand our horizons. So it's asking us, hey, maybe you need to travel out a little bit more. Maybe your philosophies need to mix with others and you shouldn't consider just your own. Maybe your knowledge, our knowledge, the world's knowledge needs some expansion in the way that we do our Venus, relationships, values, money, with freedom, adventure, and honesty. It's definitely a call for movement here. This is activated energy. It does not sit still. Venus in fire and Venus in mutable energy wants to negotiate. Okay, so great opportunity here with Pluto and Aquarius meeting the 60 degrees. Profound transformative power can be directed at Pluto, power, dynamics, collective, public. Think Pluto is, the outer collective in our collective systems. So things that are within our lives that we control, Venus is a very personal planet, to that which is out there, which means there's opportunities for those who look, for those who seek, for those who connect in transformative ways. Pluto rules the 11th house of transformation up there in Aquarius, right? The original house of transformation being 8, of course, Pluto ruling, but with it up in the 11th in Aquarius, right, we've got this focus theme on fixed air. Gemini Moon here is mutable air this month and going into a new moon of mutable fire. So this is highly connective energies in social networks, larger friendships, our humanitarian ideals, all 11th house themes, revolution, radical change, deep psychological insights, especially regarding the future. Where are we going to go with our Venus? our money, our relationships, what we value, where are we going from here, and group consciousness. This is absolutely dealing with all things 11th house. Now, on the 4th, our full moon in Gemini comes in with these themes of truth, which include the use of our Mercury, because Mercury is the lord of this moon. This is the messenger wanting to clarify in Gemini, deepening ties. What's our connection looking like? You know, what the partners that I have, the friendships that I have, the larger social groups that I'm in, what's that looking like? What perhaps is my future in that group? And the full moon always represents a climax, a great illumination. This is a super full moon. This moon will be bright, the brightest moon closest to the earth. We will be able to see, feel, and tap in to that power alchemically. I invite you December 4th, 6:14 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Be about that moon. Set your releasing, I say, at that time, and really can do some profound work exactly at that time. So it's just an alchemical tip there for those that work very closely with the moon, because the moon moves so quickly. And yes, these themes last until the new moon, right? Several weeks, no doubt about it. But when you tap into the exact time, there's something added there for you and a bonus, because you're in the exact moment of that time. You're not tapping into a time that's already passed and having to do the work of going back and looking into it. The moon asks us to wax and wane. We're not to sit. We're to wax and we're to wane. Okay, so climax of communication here, full moon in Gemini. It brings to light what's been brewing here. And we've got to look at Mercury very closely, because Mercury, ruling the moon, has been where? In retrograde. And it's stirring. And it's moving forward, along with Saturn moving forward here already. And we're going to see Neptune move forward as well into Aries in the next few months. So we've got an ending here and a climax of a releasing of that ending. Do you see this? So we have to look at the light that's shining on this full moon. And with Gemini, this is thoughts, words, learning, local environment, day to day. Where are you traveling every day? Where are you communicating every day? What's that looking like for you? Because there is a readiness that the sky is prepared for some really open communication to transpire and some raw, authentic honesty to come forward. You know, the full moon underlines a readiness for open communication, and it's marking this peak moment to process this recent information we've had with Mercury and Scorpio. Go back to my moon video last month. I go into that. And these long held, Scorpio holds communications and feelings. You know, perhaps you've not known how to speak, where to speak, when to speak, what to say. Scorpio being held in Mercury would do that and keep you in that 8th house. But we're supposed to move, guys. We can't stay there. We're fixing to move forward and fast. Mercury moves very fast, just like the moon. So we've got a time when facts can become clear, conversation reach a definite point here. And these deepening and clarifying ties I was talking about earlier, romantic, familiar, professional, you can experience a deep moment of truth. Ties can gain depth through genuine vulnerability. This is a key word here, vulnerability. There's an ask of, look, be willing to clarify and be willing to be honest. Because if you don't do that, you're not going to be able to release what's being asked to release, and you're going to carry that into the new year. And we can't have that, okay? There's definitely a call to not do that during this month of December. So, illumination, providing clarity, needing to address very demanding subjects with directness and frankness. Gemini can be flighty. Gemini is flirty. Gemini is high, exciting energy. Look at the Nine of Swords. This moon is at 13 degrees in the second decan, which is represented by Mars in Gemini. Mars is direct, assertive, aggressive, action-orientated energy. This is powerful energy represented by the 9. As you can see, it's all in on its head and it doesn't know what to do. All the energy is inside. It's been inside. Scorpio's been holding it. No more. Take the chance in your relationships to be absolutely 100% truthful and vulnerable, especially if you have a zodiac sign of Gemini or Virgo or Sagittarius or Pisces, because these polarities, again, are being lit up for you. There's something going on behind the scenes here with these signs of needing to bring some truths out on the table. And so if you don't do that, then I'm here as a shadow worker as well to tell you that you will suffer the consequences of Mars going in on itself. And that is very damaging energy as reflected in the Nine of Swords. The influence of this ruler Mercury is profound here. Mercury is a mediator, right? It governs how we perceive and process and transmit our information. And during this full moon, Mercury's energies, right? They're on fire here. They're activated. They're awakened. And they're not going backwards. They're stirring, moving forward. Okay? So our perception, how we process and transmit that information is challenging. But if we have the essential conversation that's going to move that blockage out, right? When we get all of it outside of us and onto the table where thoughts can be seen and heard and clarified and out of ourselves, out of rumination. Okay? This is the power of having mindfulness techniques in the ready and tools. I'm going to close with those, so those might help you if you're challenged with those. So stay tuned for that. Illumination, providing clarity needed to address demanding subjects with directness and frankness, are on the table with Mercury ruling this moon. So the power of the written word, the power of the spoken word, the power of communication, in the moment where words carry maximum weight, the moon is full, it's heavy, it's releasing everything out here. It's a call. It's a call, very clear call for us. At 13 degrees, reducing to a 4, the number of balance. Where are your 4 legs to your table? Are they level? Is there a leg missing? Is there a need of adjustment where maybe they're wobbling and you need to stick a shimmy under there? Or you need to maybe restructure the table entirely and cut them all, the ends all off the bottom to get it settled. What I'm seeing here is intuitively, this came really fast as I was speaking. I just saw this table, wobbling. And you putting your hands, once you get like one side down, the other side goes up, and then you got to run over and put that side down, and then that pops that side up. And there's an adjustment here being asked of your mind frame to bring you to a settled place of all this coming out and being released so that you can move into the new moon in Sagittarius occurring later on in the month that is showing you. It's the archer pointing the way, right? Showing you your truth, showing you your philosophy. And philosophy is nothing more than the thoughts we think formed into concepts that become a way that we represent ourselves. So you see the polarity here with this moon is an ask to move towards those energies. Now, Mars Chiron and this healing action that's trying to go on here, I want to talk about this. Simultaneously during this moon, the active energies of Mars is aligning beautifully with the healing influence of Chiron. Now, Chiron is the wounded healer. I talk about this asteroid archetype quite a bit as I work with it very closely in my consulting and inner healing work. And Chiron has been in Aries, and I've talked about this as well. Mars is ruling Chiron. Mars has been ruling Chiron, trying to get us to clean up our wounds and do our deepest shadow work of our life, wherever Chiron is. And it's offering now with Mars igniting in Sagittarius. It's offering a tangible path forward, right? The archer pulling back his bow and pointing and showing the way once the truth is spoken. You see how this works? This has to be spoken. It's like a catalyst that opens up a harmonious trine, 120-degree aspect of supportive, easy-flowing energy that's going to allow healing and energies to blend effortlessly. Trines don't work hard. Trines just flow. Mars is action in Sagittarius, our beliefs, our expansion of our philosophies. Mars provides active energy and courage. Definitely courage. Sagittarius is very brave, as is Mars, to explore truth and expand our horizons beyond what we've been doing. Remember, the second had that Pluto sextile to Venus, relationships, money, partnerships, what we value in our larger collective. This here is very personal energy, Chiron. And this energy could have shown up in the collective. And maybe you've been wounded from the collective. And if that's happened, I want to say, don't give up on the collective. Find your tribe and your supportive energies of those that speak honestly, support you. That energy which wants you to always do your best and have your best, and it doesn't nitpick and have to have things its own way, and doesn't come into a group and try to dominate the group and dictate the group in a way that isn't beneficial to the group. And where we have Mars, we have laceration. This laceration is in a trine. So it is the wounds of truth that heal. It is Mars, the knife, the surgeon, in courage, cutting something open to take out the tumor, the illness, the cancer, to then sew it back up, bless it, and send it on its way. Reminds me of a Bible verse. Many clues and other cultures talk about this as well in their writings. It says, faithful are the wounds of a friend, deceitful the kisses of an enemy. Faithful are the wounds of a friend. Your friend won't double talk you. Your true friend won't um, say things that aren't true behind your back. Your true friend wants to work together like a team. Your true friend will share with you honesty, authentic conversation, and you always know they have your back. That's a true friend. There's something going on here in the collective that's trying to clear some energies out that haven't been healthy. So the trine brings the courage of Mars in Sagittarius, easily supporting Chiron's healing process now, as Chiron is closing out his journey as well in Aries. And it's going to bring you an ability to look at these wounds, especially those rooted in past conversations, especially those rooted in self-doubt, especially those rooted in your conflicts of your belief systems with others. You're going to be able to actively apply yourself to your healing. And this clear communication facilitated by the full moon that I just discussed becomes the necessary first step. The clearing path for Mars energy to initiate self-care and recovery. So, to wrap up this trine, the celestial combination encourages you to use honest, clear communication to address core issues of wounding that could have gone back to your childhood, could have gone back to patterns you created from your childhood. Everything to do with your psychology and how it was compromised and wounded in your physical body as well, of course, and how it impeded your soul spirit journey. So, clear with Mars the path to initiate this self-care and recovery. It's on the table and it's available. We have a grand water trine on the 6th and 7th of December. We've been going in and out of this grand water trine. I had talked and alluded to this the last couple moons. It is definitely here to open up those communications. Water trines are gifts and deep healing, if you have them in the chart, of a high intuitive nature with the ability to channel. The ability to channel truths of a highly intuitive nature that bring about harmony, healing, restoration, and deep peace. Definitely deep peace, which the Nine of Swords is very interested in and doesn't know how to get. It doesn't know how to achieve it. It's sitting up at night in its bed, stressed out. The key here is to look at what's working for you and to shoot to those energies and to work with those energies in your chart, because collectively these grand water trines are bringing in sensitive, powerful, emotional, intuitive energies that deal with the element of water. It's connecting Mercury in Scorpio, Jupiter in Cancer, and Saturn and Neptune in Pisces. This three-way 120-degree aspect is creating some self-sustaining energy for us. It's a flow. It's a circuit of energy, ensuring that great things can be achieved, no doubt about it, with ease during the 6th and the 7th, especially in the areas related to emotional depth, security, and I want to bring in a huge word here, legacy. What you do now with all of this energy and at this time in history, we've been talking about this, is very legacy making. What does that mean? Look to your 11th house. Pluto and Aquarius, collective theme for the next 20 years for all of us. What's going on with what you're going to be remembered for? What's going on with how people look to your contributions within this world in your larger groups? How are you acting there in your larger groups? How are you treating people? How are you behaving, Mercury in Scorpio? This is a deep ask. It's profound depth here with Mercury in Scorpio. It provides this intensity, focus, and a piercing insight that we need to grasp the core truth of what the heck is going on here with Mercury. This is profound, strategic, and transformational. We are meant to change the way we do our Mercury. Hands down, Jupiter in Cancer is bringing this nurturing and expansive element that's going to offer emotional protection, expansive good fortune. Jupiter's the great benefic. And this great desire to nurture and build security, especially in the home and the family. Now it's getting personal here, right? And you may be saying, oh, well, it's already been personal. Yes. But with Jupiter in Cancer in this long transit, long time with Jupiter in Cancer, now in retrograde, we're meant to revisit these themes. We're meant to ask ourselves, where are we bringing in our intuition? Our true emotional reactions that we know when in balance are the good for us. When they're not in balance, are bad for us. So we have an opportunity with everything in flow to actually look at these energies without a lot of aggression and a lot of, I would say, needing to defend ourselves. You know, the ego wants to defend. Saturn in Pisces, this is compassionate structure. It's like, okay, I know this doesn't feel good to address this. I know that it's difficult, but if we don't put some structure into how we're doing our Mercury communication, we're not going to make it to the long term. And that Saturn moves very slow, right? Saturn in Pisces, Mercury in Scorpio being held. There's this ask of us to bring discipline, realistic boundaries, and compassionate structure to dreams and spiritual matters. Yes, Mercury can stay grounded. Mercury can think of third and sixth house only. It rules those houses, highly practical houses. But where are the opposite signs of these two signs? They're in the higher daytime chart, right? Where the light is on and where things are seen very, very clearly. So this will help us to materialize, idealize into tangible structures, sustainable forms, our ideas. This is what's been going on here. There's a power of flowing ease with the Grand Trine, a project completion going on here as we're finishing up Mercury and Scorpio. And it's this stabilizing persistence of Saturn and Pisces that's going to allow these more complex conversations and more complex projects and tasks to be handled with more grace and powerful execution. Healing comes with security here. Healing feels better. Healing comes with security. I want to say that again. Healing comes when our needs of security are met. And what we're trying to do is not have this stability and this stableness and this clarity and still be healed and still feel well. And it just doesn't work that way. We must stabilize, okay, to bring security. And this is where we're going as we start moving out of Sagittarius energies and into Capricorn energy, which is ruled by Saturn, and we go into the winter solstice, and as we go into Aries with our Saturn and our Neptune, and as Mercury starts moving forward. Do you see? Everything's being released. And if we've not done this work, then we are going to release whatever remains, because fire and air is coming, and that's very fast energy that requires a different way of operating with the collective energies than we have been. So week 2, our theme is disciplinary challenge, Mars squaring Saturn. On December 9th, the action-orientated planet Mars forms a challenging square 90-degree angle with the planet of structure and restriction, Saturn. Guys, this is not easy energy. It's one of the most difficult transits that we will ever experience in our lives. It's a desire to push forward, Mars, but it's meeting this strong, immovable obstacle. So if you've been feeling like there have been things stuck, like why won't this move? Oh my gosh, I can't even tell you. I can't even tell you how much I identify with this. We're going to see a breakthrough if we lean into these themes. Okay? We shouldn't stay with the blockages and the frustrations and these surgings of negativity that are going to try to come at us one after another. Squares are acerbating, they're lacerating. Mars operates the square, and this is a Mars to Saturn square. So this is not easy. Impatience can come up. Overconfidence or inflated expectations can come up. You can charge forward here without adequately assessing the real world obstacles or rules, leading to hard consequences. You know, you could break and bust out of this lesson too quickly. The structure that's trying to take place to teach you something, and it can end up being overconfident, going your own way, egocentric, and causing all kinds of mayhem. We're looking for discipline and endurance here, not mayhem. We're looking for security and healing, not mayhem. Okay? It's a necessity ask here of you and I of adjusting. Cosmic requirement asking us to pause, perform a reality check, adjust our strategies. Yes, and adjusting of strategies is being called forth. Not to give up, not to throw the baby out with the bathwater, not to just get rid of it all. That requires nothing. That's the easy way out. This is personal. Mercury is personal in Gemini. This is about refining your approach, the way that you sustain your energy and how you limit and structure your Mars. This is tactical. This requires you to take a look at the square in your chart and look for the adjustments, accept the external limits, and channel your energy correctly. If you don't, all that fighting is just going to lead to greater exhaustion, and then you're going to feel defeated. And that's never a good feeling. So work within the established parameters. Work within what you have to work within, right? Work within what you have worked within, which are your established parameters. And you've been working on those, right? We've been talking about establishing that. So, Mars squaring Saturn demands that you trade speed for solidarity. Take a deep breath, respect the boundaries, channel your drive into strategic planning rather than head on confrontation. That is the ask of this square. Saturn takes 29 and a half years to make a full return. So when you have a Saturn return, you have a very maturing moment in your life. And if, you live to 84, 85, you're going to experience 3 Saturn returns. Huge, right? I just experienced my second Saturn return when I was 59 and a half several years ago. It was monumental in my life. And the structures that Saturn had established, for the next 29 and a half years were clear. And when you work with Saturn, you can put some incredible structure in your life, which is required along with discipline to manifest. If you are to be the soul spirit in a meat body, in a bio suit, to manifest on this earth will require you to adjust, tweak, manage, and hone your Saturn. Saturn may deny, he may delay, Saturn may delay, but he does not deny. Okay? He may delay, but he does not deny. If you do this hard work, this hard ask, the last month of the year before going into 2026, setting some structure down, setting your Saturn in place, looking at where will the next 2.5 years with Saturn in Aries be? What's happening with that? What house will that be going through? What will be my challenges? What will be my obstacles? What will be my blessings? What will be my harmonies? All of that strategy is required to look at all that to be able to come up with a plan. So wherever Saturn has been traveling in Pisces for the past 2.5 years, he's on his final lessons. And the restriction regarding Pisces energy in your chart. Pisces is being highlighted as we close out the year. And there's been deep lessons for us personally and collectively. Neptune has been in Pisces since April of 2011. Look to the house where Neptune and most recently 2.5 years Saturn have collectively been traveling, and the growth lessons that have occurred in the last 2.5 years with Saturn and the last 14 years with Neptune in Pisces. We've been asked to grow, to evolve, and ascend our consciousness with Saturn and Neptune in Pisces about all things spiritual, all things above, all things brought down above to earth in practical ways so we can lay the structures so we can build. So highly dynamic and psychologically intense sequence of transits occurring within the first 2 weeks of December, marking a major turning point in how we process and communicate information. I want to talk about the period of the 10th and 11th of December here for a moment, being very astrologically charged. It's featuring Mercury with his rapid fire in aspects and Neptune's significant station direct, culminating in a change of Mercury's sign. All right. The theme here is information overload and the turning of the tide. Mercury focuses on deep psychological truth in Scorpio. And it's encountering some radical external forces here with Uranus and spiritual depths with Neptune and Lilith. The conjunction here with Mercury and Scorpio and Lilith. I want to talk about this. This is unearthing some deep, hidden, and even forbidden truths, secret things dealing with your personal power, sexuality, and dominance, particularly those with suppressed emotions, that which is put down and pushed down in power dynamics and shadow aspects. It's a focus on unfiltered, raw communication. Black Moon Lilith is a shadow aspect, right? We already know this. So she's already dark. But there's polarity. There's a must and an ask of polarity on planet Earth. She may be Black Moon Lilith, but she has a polarity. And if she does not find her center, her polarity here, she could do great damage. This unfiltered raw communication is Lilith enraged. And imagine her just opening her throat. Mercury and Scorpio, okay? Psychologically, what she's been thinking about, and just blah, just barfing it out in foul, unfiltered, harmful, damaging ways. Mercury and Scorpio is opposed to Uranus and Taurus. This opposition brings really sharp restlessness and sudden unforeseen events related to the penetrating truth of the communicator Mercury. In Scorpio, it's going to be very truthful, very penetrating. It's clashing with this fixed material ask security of Uranus and Taurus. And it's going to lead, depending on your chart and how this plays out, we're going to have some really sudden, unexpected revelations, financial value shocks, especially. Look out for money to be involved in a communicative way, and a sudden course and a change in plans with your money, with relationships, with all things communicative. Uranus rules this Pluto in Aquarius, as does Saturn, because your Pluto Aquarius is ruled by Uranus and Saturn. So you see how this ties into this power dynamics of Pluto and Aquarius and the 11th house themes I brought in with Aquarius. Needs to be some speaking going on in larger groups and themes of honesty and clarity. Now we have a trine with Mercury and Scorpio trining that Neptune and Pisces, which is helping the situation, which is going to provide that deep, profound intuition and spiritual insight. And this is right before Neptune turns direct out of retrograde. This strategic mind Scorpio I've been talking about, it's going to be able to tap into the collective dreamscape here, okay? And the subtle emotional currents of Scorpio with Pisces. You're going to be able to handle this. If you do the work, if you lay the groundwork, if you honor the aspects in your own chart and how these codes are working with you. Wow. It's a great opportunity to really release what's been pent up in that Mercury and Scorpio. Now, on December 10th, with Neptune turning direct at that last degree of Pisces, this is a critical turning point. It can really feel, if we let it and we're not careful, like a massive spiritual, emotional wave, just this overwhelm of water flowing over us. A flood of information even can confuse and overwhelm, or maybe a lot of things that have been held back in this damming of Mercury and Scorpio, like holding it up like a dam. Scorpio fixes, right? It's now all coming out in this huge flood, in this release of the full moon, too. This is all part of this. It can lead to a lot of stress, overwhelm, and confusion. So there's some boundaries we got to put here going into these conversations. Be highly discerning. Go in with a clear mind. Make sure you draw those boundaries down in clarity against, any other voices that aren't meant to be heard at this time, any external noises that have been coming at you, and maybe they've spoken into your mind and tried to tell you what to do or how to handle a situation. These thoughts, when Mercury is tucked into Scorpio, can take root in your mind. Rumination, right? So there's a high mental vulnerability here. So be careful around the 10th, all right? Plan for this. Know that's a highly emotionally charged day. Now, the shift occurs here in our month when Mercury enters Sagittarius. And all of Gemini and Virgo and Sag and Pisces sign will celebrate. Yes, you're getting your relief. It's coming finally. You guys have been through it. Remember the nodes of fate. Going to talk about those in a minute. Those are in Virgo and Pisces, and they're in retrograde. So, still some remaining lessons there for you, but you're definitely going to be moving out in communication differently. Mercury moves from this intensely focused depth of Scorpio, right, into this expansive, philosophical, optimistic Sagittarius. It's ruled by Jupiter. So Mercury ruling Sagittarius, working with the co-lord of Jupiter. Jupiter's exalted in Cancer and retrograde in a grand trine with Mercury. Hey, now we're seeing how this is all coming together. This is powerful energy. This is going to bring you relief. And you're going to see a different change in perspective. It's almost like somebody's going to wash the fog from the window. It's like, oh my gosh, I could finally see clearly. This has been intense. So it's going to have to do with 9th house themes too. I want you to, even though it's not in the 9th house, I want you to be thinking about this. There is an ask of moving out in your own mutable fire with others, okay, in clarity. And this shift is going to focus on what's been hidden to what now is possible. What we didn't know was, all this stuff here. Oh, now I see what's possible. Now I see the path forward. So swift, intense mental cleansing and disclosure, while demanding, this is this whole theme of December, it clears this mental slate as Mercury moves into Sagittarius, and it empowers us. This fast-moving energy of new insights, launching us into hope, launching us into a forward, moving, acting out, not stuck Mercury. So this mid-December transition, it's involving this critical shift in energy and focus from expansive idealism to grounded action and structure. So we get this burst of energy, right? It all comes in. We have these aha moments. All this should be clearing out. And then bam, now we see some ask of us coming in really clearly. Whereas before it was more communication and understanding what needed to be said and clearing the air. We've got a Mars squaring Neptune on December 14th that can bring in structure, but first there could be this disorientation to our determination. The Mars and Sun transitions going on here need to be looked at. So On 14th of December, Mars reaches the last degree of Sagittarius and forms a challenging square to Neptune. And this signals a final intense clash between active drive Mars Sagittarius and idealistic dissolving Neptune. So, some moments of disorientation, lack of energy, the Martian drive, typically outgoing and assertive, is meeting this Neptunian fog. Which way do I go? What do I do? It can dilute your energy, can cause you to be tired, can be confusing energy, can cause your goals and goal making to seem fuzzy, and you're not able to put in really fine lines. There can be an overwhelm here of feeling like this is impossible. I just don't think this can ever happen. This is going to pass, and it's counterproductive to sit in that rumination because these energies are moving, okay? It's not staying, but it is slowing you down with that square, asking you to take a look at these energies in your chart and a necessity perhaps of rest. December is known to be a hugely busy month. We have holiday things going on. We have family oftentimes. We have the holiday of spending of money and Christmas and extra food. And there's just a lot going on. And I have decided for myself, and doing my yearly planning and doing my own tarot spread and looking at my own chart and my transits, that December is going to be very low key for me. I've got a lot of things launching and moving out starting next year. I'd finished my coursework now, and just going forward in my own authenticity of taking everything that I've learned and moving into a new stage of my life where it's all being implemented now in very strategic ways. And although I've been in energy healing work for years and doing a lot of pro bono work, I have done many, many, many hours of pro bono work and getting feedback and growth and, trying to hone my skills. I'm just going into January very rested. So I want to encourage you. There's an ask for all of us actually at this time to collectively consider that and to dial it down, to pare it down, to not spend money unnecessarily, to not go into debt, to take self-care days, to not be running around busy all of the time. This is not healthy for us. And if we spend a lot of time in these mutable energies, which December is highly mutable, it is the main mode of operation for December is the mutable signs and element. Modes of being. If we don't ground and take time for ourselves, then we could find ourselves going into 2026 very exasperated. And we don't need to do that, okay? Let's take the proactive steps to have a return of discipline and a return of structure and a return of not working so hard, but maybe learning how to rest in structure as well. Yes, there is a time and season for everything. And part of finding balance and doing our alchemy here is understanding the seasons and the cycles. And profoundly shows up in your natal chart, and it profoundly shows up in our monthly moons of the new moons and the full moons, giving us clues to how our energies can be best tapped, utilized, and managed. Okay, as Mars shifts into this productive phase now, the Sun, our ego and will, squares Saturn, structure and duty, on the 17th of December. And this reinforces this call for maturity and realism. Yes, this is Saturn after all. And this is not easy energy because it's asking us to take responsibility. It's asking us not to look to any other person. Okay? This is all you, boo. This problem, these challenges, when we point a finger, we have 3 fingers pointing back at us. So, really, this has all been about you. And I know that that's not easy to hear, but it's the truth. It's always about you. It's always about our own personal power. It's always about the way we harness our emotions. We harness our Mars. We harness what we value, Venus. We harness our will, our ego, Sun. The square introduces friction between your personal desires and the demands of reality. This transit is calling on us to assume responsibility for choices and to devote yourself to realistic goals. Goals are something I talk a lot about in my consultations, and you would be amazed at how many people don't even have goals. I've asked people what their goals are, what they're shooting for, and they say getting through the day. I don't have any goals. I can barely get through the day. And I want to share with you, look to your Saturn in your chart for solutions to how to manage that. Look to your Jupiter, who wants to help you with your Saturn and bring bountiful, beneficial connections and ideas and concepts of a philosophical nature, belief systems, to come in and help you set those goals. Because if you don't have a destination, any path will do. And if we live on earth without purpose, passion, plan, and destination, we will live a rudderless life. And if you've ever been on the sea and sailing, as I have, the rudder is extremely important. The rudder is imperative. So this is an ask of us going into this Capricorn energy. Assume responsibility for your choices and devote yourself to realistic goals. If you do not, authority figures will step forward and provide the concrete boundaries that could very much potentially challenge your personal will. And it will demand that you honor commitments and focus on the practical foundations of your life. In essence, the days around the 14th demand rest and clarity before you harness the powerful, disciplined energy that emerges on the 15th, followed by a sober, realistic approach to your goals on the 17th. Week 3. Renewal to reality, the solstice crisis, and the Capricorn focus. This period marks a profound psychological and energetic shift, moving from expansive idealism and introspection to grounded action and realistic responsibility, often challenging our expectations in the process. So this call to meaning occurs with our Sagittarius new moon, and it's a powerful moment here for inner renewal and planting seeds related to high ideals, higher philosophy, higher wisdoms, higher truths, higher ways of expressing our energies. Long distance travel, not this short mercurial Gemini third house. No, no, no. This is Sagittarius. This is expansive energy. And it deals with movement and trying to connect mutable with others and other systems and structures that have been laid out so that it can go to that 10th house after the ninth of career and do something practical. 10th house ruled by Capricorn and Saturn with them. So philosophical exploration, renewed faith in the future, inspires us to set these intentions that align with our deepest beliefs in the expansions of our personal horizons. So the days surrounding the winter solstice, December 21st, are marked by these challenging squares, but they're creating this necessary pressure point for growth. The Sun, Venus square, Saturn, Neptune, Jupiter square, Chiron is tense, right? But this array of squares highlights a struggle between idealism and reality, personal values and boundaries. The clash between the hopeful dreamer, pie in the sky, Sun, Venus, Neptune, and concrete limits, Saturn, means that unmet expectations and unrealistic ideas and ideals can now lead to potential bitter disappointments. This could be, with these squares, such laceration that it's irreconcilable. Okay? Jupiter, Chiron square magnifies old wounds. When our need for expansion or blessing feels denied or blocked, it's a tense period here and an invitation to maturity. It's demanding that we test our dreams against reality. And there is an ask here of full responsibility for your own happiness. This is huge. In my consultations, I talk about this a lot. You hold the power. You hold the power, take it back. And let's learn how to take it back, keep it back, hold your power, to then structure it, to then release it. Okay? This is challenges of you feeling like you can't do that. Look for the helpers. Look for the sextiles. Look for the trines. They are pointing the way for you to work with the energies that are already wanting to work together. So the key word is maturity. The key word is look at what's tangibly possible, Venus. The key word is bring it into structure. So the sun enters Capricorn here, and with the sun's entry into Capricorn on the solstice, the focus shifts immediately and fundamentally. This is quick, fast energy, guys. We're not fooling around. We're not in retrograde here, and we're not in Scorpio. A shift to clarity and concrete action here, which is fluid, which is optimistic, and can offer sometimes the scattered Sagittarius some discipline, material focus through Capricorn. The emphasis is clarity, structured action, and concrete implementation. We see here an opportunity to take some humility with our power, because this is now, by this point in the month, we've had these aha moments, right? We've released, full moon is on the 4th, we're into the 21st here. We've released, now we know, okay? Now we're supposed to know. And we're supposed to be able to lay down these structures. And remember, in this knowing, let us have humility. Let us not dominate and demand and be like, this is how you need to be, right? This is our power, our personal power. Keep your eyes focused on you and what you need to set up and what you need to structure. True power is found not in fighting limits, but in accepting them. And true humility is the willingness to accept your own limitations with dignity and become a source of creative power and contentment. This allows us to build a sturdy reality instead of chasing this phantom ideal. And with Neptune and Pisces, we have been with this ideal trying to have us look. Saturn locking us in for the past 2 years. Where's your ideals? Where's reality? Where's fantasy? Let's get some structure. Let's get some structure. Because if we don't, like, here's a really good example. Saturn built this cup, right? Somebody designed this cup to be practical and to be useful. This was my mother's cup, by the way. God bless her, she has passed. But Saturn now creating this container, now I can use it. And what can I do? I could put my coffee inside of it. You see, the phantom ideal, the fog, the disillusion is you don't even know you can make a cup. You don't even know how to make a cup. You don't even know there is a cup. And if you do see the cup, you're not sure if it's a cup or a pitcher or a funnel. Like, this is what's been going on here. And now the solstice goes, look clearly. Here's the cup. Here's the structure. Here's how you can take your power and put it in something to manifest. We're moving into air and fire in 2026. That energy is quick, that energy is fast, and that energy has an ask. And I've been talking about this. All right, so in summary, this new moon here occurring in Sagittarius with the solstice at the same time, this is profound, prepares us to have ideals that have been soberly tested, right? Saturn, solstice tested these. The solstice knows. The solstice is powerful. Saturn has come up to the table. The energy in Capricorn is going to provide the necessary discipline and realism to construct a solid, meaningful future from the ground up. Look to your Saturn. This is huge. Week 4, last week of the month. I call this sacred longing and practical love. This is Venus in Capricorn. The period around the 24th of December is going to be marked by a really beautiful blend of some profound romantic idealism and the beauty of it being grounded in commitment. So perfectly aligning with the spirit of Christmas and the solstice of Yule. You know, the challenge though is this transition is when Venus enters Capricorn, it squares Neptune. So Venus is love, values, money, partnerships, fairness, affection. And as it enters Capricorn, structures, reality, commitment, she forms this square to Neptune, which is illusion, idealism out of control at times, and transcendence, where we are to spiritualize and look up and not be so heavy and earthbound with our love, our value, our money, our partnerships. Okay, it's all about those themes. So there's a conflict here. The configuration merges a deep longing for redemption. Okay, Neptune wants the perfect, the spiritual love, the perfect love. And with this equally deep desire for stability in relationships, Capricorn Saturn, right? There's a need for some security, intangible commitment. Like, okay, all of this is on the table. All of this has been talked about. Saturn is going to rise up and demand a commitment. If the commitment is not given, okay, Venus is going to really be challenged because she's squaring Saturn. And those energies don't get along very well in a square. So it's providing an opportunity for you and for us in our profound connections. Despite the illusion, despite this deeply charged energy at this time of the month, we can have tangible, profound connections occur. The grounding presence of Venus in Capricorn helps anchor, right? It helps ground Neptune's dreamy quality. Capricorn is Earth, the cardinal Earth sign. So we've got a lot of power here in Capricorn. Chances are good that you can plan and structure a highly beautiful, profound, festive celebration that moves beyond this superficial cheer, and it's going to offer tangible, profound connections to Venus, considered in the ancient myths to be the birth of the light on Earth. Boy, there's a lot to unpack there, but I won't. But just dig into that. You'll go down some rabbit holes. Venus is highly magnanimous, highly magnetic. Venus is really wanting to do something here. She wants meaningful connections. She wants connections structured by the tradition of how we do love, how we do things, and is illuminated at this time of the year by this beautiful transcendent light and loving spirit. So it's asking you to ground those highest ideals of love in connection with tangible reality. You know, are you expecting too much from someone in a relationship? Are you not seeing things clearly with a partnership with money? You know, Venus can help you here in Capricorn and can bring a healing through beautiful words and sobering speech, because Mercury has a disciplined dialogue here. At the end of December, we have two highly influential yet contrasting aspects involving Mercury. The planet of communication, right? Demanding both emotional honesty and practical responsibility in your words. I wrote down here that there's a healing dialogue that needs to be had between Mercury, Trine, Chiron on December 28th. It's creating an easy harmony flow between the mind Mercury and the deep psychological wounds of Chiron. There's a supportive healing here that we're seeing again with Chiron. It's a perfect window for open communication, therapeutic communication. If you have a counseling session on that day, it will probably go very well. Or a consultation with me, yay, book it. My calendar, you can go straight to it and book your sessions. I've got my website and my description. Everything is up and running. Be a great time to look at your Chiron. Be highly, probably very insightful into areas that perhaps you've been struggling with regarding your own Chiron. There's an integration and an understanding that can take place between the mind Chiron and the wounds, and a sharing now of some difficult truths and wounds that now, with the energies moving forward, you know, not in retrograde, they're not as burdensome. They're not as heavy on you. They're not as the Nine of Swords, right? They're moving out past the Nine of Swords to the Ten of Swords, where we're done, where the death has happened and the alchemy has taken place, and we can move back into the cycle and begin again. On December 30th, Mercury squares Saturn, and there's a real demand for, I would say, just your responsibility in life. Where is your responsibilities? How are you managing your responsibilities? Do you have friction there? Is there a need for discipline? And I tell you what Saturn will bring is a reality check A reality check will come to you through authorities, whether you like it or not, if you haven't managed this. And it's, I call it like a cosmic editor, you know? It reminds you where you need to be precise, where you need to be authoritative, where you need to set your rules, where you need to set your grounds, where you need to set your four pole corners, where you need to set your blueprint down for the next year. Like, what is everything going to look like for you? And Saturn demands structure and accountability. So any careless or ill thought out words, exaggerated words spoken now during this time, um, is likely going to not work out for you on the 30th in this square. It's a need here and an ask for the stressors to be matured. Squares are stress aspects. Mercury squaring Saturn here on the 30th. This is not easy. We're seeing these squares occur over and over again this month. And in fact, we even have mutable square in this chart. So definitely not easy. This is asking you to have serious conversations, to think out your conversations well, to be mature and disciplined in all forms of communication, including written commitments and especially contracts at this time. So the final days of the year are offering a path for this emotional breakthrough, vying this great healing that can occur on the 28th, followed by a crucial reminder to anchor words in sober responsibility and commitment on the 30th with the Mercury square Saturn. I want to move into quickly a couple more closing themes here on the Nine of Swords, and I want to talk about this. Now, the nine is a celebration of endings in tarot and new beginnings. And the nine stands for the fruition of all of our endeavors. So it's this huge culmination point in the tarot. And it invites us to ponder our path and to let go of the old, to welcome in the new. So look to with this card the Hermit, the Moon, the Nine of Wands, the Nine of Cups, the Nine of Swords, and the Nine of Pentacles. In the Nine of Swords, we have worry, awareness, stress, sleeplessness, and despair. It is not an easy energy. Swords always represent the air, our intellect, our communication, and our many challenges with that. So there's a clarity, an analysis of our mind, and the power of our thoughts, and how our thoughts create things. And this deals with the inner alchemist here and how you really do hold the power. We're looking for clarity to come through, for logic to come through, for truth, authentic truth to rise in December, for solutions with Capricorn season coming in towards the end, the solstice, structure, discipline. So Mercury has really had quite a journey through the last 2 or 3 months of this year. And we're finally going to see some grounding take place, really, really needed with this card. I also want to bring in the Emperor card because if you look at this moon, it reduces to a 4, 13 degrees reduces to a 4. So you have the moon at 13 degrees and the sun at 13 degrees. You also have the North Node in 13 degrees, and you have the South Node in 13 degrees, reducing to 4. You also have Mars, which is highly active during December, and Mercury as well. But Mars is very active in December towards the end of the month. And you have it at 22 degrees as of the Gemini full moon. That reduces to a 4. Mercury in Scorpio at 22 degrees reduces to a 4. Chiron, that I've talked about here in detail, reduces to a 4. So you can see here what I've talked about so far. It is definitely involved the way we use Mercury, the way that our moon is waxing and waning with our Mercury, and all of the lessons Mercury's been going through. Our Mars, our personal power, the way we express in our communication, tying back to wounding, tying back to the wounds that are deep within us and the way that we communicate, perhaps tying back to childhood. With the Emperor at number 4, we're moving to this personal power, stability, responsibility, structure, and authority. This is the element of fire in Aries. And this is a major arcana card, the number 4, Emperor, with great themes asking us to consider the number 4, which has its essence and resonance with the pillars of stability and structure. And number 4 urges us, compels us, requires us to lay stable structures. If we're ever to build, we need stable structures. And it urges us to lay strong foundations and steadily work towards our goals. For a key on the 4 and additional information for help with this whole month of December, look to the 4s. They're coming through strongly. This is the Emperor, Death, 4 of Wands, 4 of Cups, 4 of Swords, 4 of Pentacles. In closing, I want to talk for a few moments about some tips. Because this is the end of the year and this is a very potent month and there's a lot of energies going on, I just want to bring in some mindfulness tips for a healthy mindset. And I'm just going to list the tip, the grounding tip, and the practical suggestion. The tip is speak your essential truths. Before engaging in a difficult conversation, pause and ask, even write this down. Journaling helps really well with this. What is the simplest, most honest truth I need to convey right now? Prioritize it. Focus on clarity and resolution. For a grounding tip to this, you can do a somatic release. After deep conversations, physically shake out your hands or your feet, even your body, like this. Do a brief, vigorous exercise, jumping jacks, push-ups, kicking your legs back and forth, doing something for 3 minutes, which releases all of that energy and the emotional blocks that can form in our chakras and in our system and in our meridians and in our channels through intense communications, right? Through challenging communications. So that way, things won't rise up if you do these exercises. You're releasing this energy. You're not bringing up, it's not staying in you where you're going to bring up and past energies to the surface. A practical suggestion: schedule healing talks with whoever this is that you're having challenges with, wherever this shows up for you. This is intentionally around the 4th and the 5th, and address this one subject because the energies are ripe in power for this. Clarify one important relationship goal, one important relationship framework, and talk about how you're going to decide to mutually grow this area together, wherever this is, by coming up with sound structures. This will eliminate mental distress. I call it closing the loops. When we have a lot of open loops in our mind, things that aren't closed, the circuit cannot go through. When we have open loops, the energy gets diverted out and dispelled. It's not able to be utilized in alchemy. Close the loops. Another mindfulness tip: trust the flow. When working on projects December 6th and 7th, consciously trust your first intuitive thought. If an idea feels easy and right, assume the universe is supporting it and proceed with less analytical effort. A grounding tip here is water mediation, helping to stir up these intuitive waters and creativity. Spend time near a body of water. Go sit by the water and meditate for 3 minutes. Take a long bath or shower. Visualize your energy connecting to nurturing, flowing, and secure energies and water elements of ease, with the grand water trine showing up at this time. A practical suggestion: finalize your security. What do I mean? Use the easy flow of this energy to finalize a long-term practical item. There's also energies here talking about in December, things that need to be done. We're ending the year, right? So these long projects, close them down, get them finished. We're starting a new year. This will help you with your mental anxiety too, because you're closing those loops, you're writing them down, you're getting the plan in place. This eases stress. Another tip: this is called the right time acceptance. When hitting an obstacle, December 9th, with these squares coming in, mentally state, this is not a failure. This is a delay. This is not a failure. This is a delay. In fact, once we hit mid-month, write that down and keep it somewhere, because Saturn can bring in, these structures are going to come in. They're not going to feel good. It's going to be frustrating. And it can feel like you're just a loser. You can internalize this energy. Depending on how this is hitting your chart, this could be real demeaning. So be careful with that, okay? And understand that there's a right time. And just because you're failing doesn't mean it's not going to be fruitful. It's just not the right time. It's not when things are coming together yet. Delays are not denials, okay? Redirect this frustrated energy by researching, planning, putting your energy into a project writing, not fighting the restrictions. There's a grounding tip here you can use called the wall push. And you stand facing a wall and you place your hands against the wall and you press hard for 10 seconds. And this physical sensation grounds your mind and your energy and your body. And it tricks it, and it creates this unmovable boundary that calms the body. Crazy, right? But it works. There's a reality check going on here, and it's asking you around the 9th to review your most ambitious goals and adjust your strategies by realistically doubling the estimated time and budget, ensuring you are working within established parameters and not against them. So measure twice, cut once. During the solstice, moving this dream to duty, right? The focus is on responsibility. There's a practice called true humility. And during the 10th solstice period on the 21st, consciously recognize and accept one personal limitation without self-criticism. Frame this acceptance as a source of power, not defeat. Take a look at that restriction and journal. Come up with positive ways to confront that restriction. And when you have an action, or you have a way rather, come up with the action steps. Saturn loves getting down to the details and the nitty-gritty of how something can take discipline and a frame and a focus to manifest, to send it out on earth. A grounding tip here is spend 10 minutes a day sitting with your back against a large tree. Of course, walking barefoot on the ground is always a go-to. With the weather getting cooler, that might not be so practical, although some people walk barefoot all year long and find that that practice actually is therapeutic. But there's first step actions that can be implemented here. First step actions required, like a lot of, okay, how do I do this? A lot of strategizing. And I want to tell you, sometimes strategizing is really, really tough just getting started. I know that when I went to write my dissertation, the hardest part for me was getting that first paragraph out of me. It was brutal. It took me a really long time. Finally getting things moving. And as I got that idea down and out of me, I could begin to build some structures around it. Okay? So actionable intention setting following the new moon and the solstice season. Convert this grand trine, okay? This philosophical dream into concrete first step actions that can be implemented using the focused discipline that's available after the 21st. I want to bring your attention to a couple last items closing out here. Eros, the asteroid that is at 25 degrees in Aries in retrograde. And Eros stands for sexuality, reproductive organs, the heart and cardiac system, what we love deeply. The experience in behavioralism of eroticism, what turns you on, and your will to live is tied up in Eros. An Eros asteroid in retro is going straight towards Chiron, as Chiron is moving away from Eros in retrograde, headed back to Ceres, the asteroid in Aries on the midheaven. You'll notice that the 25 and 22 degrees of Eros and Chiron conjunct are in the decan of Venus. I just wanted to bring that out because we're seeing a lot with Venus here in what we value in partnerships, our communication, and our love. And that's being highlighted with themes that are going back in love related to Chiron, related to your core woundings. So I want you to think about that. It's very, very important that you see that there are some core woundings coming up with these asteroids together, asking you, to really consider what in my childhood needs to be released that's resulting in me not doing my love correctly. And the Sabian symbol here for the 23rd degree of Aries. It says, at a diplomatic ball, a woman in satin sheath dress discusses politics and culture with a dignified old lady wearing a black veil. The art of conversation, knowing how much to reveal and how much to hold back, may be given to excess, but uncouth loudmouths eventually find themselves barred from polite society, pinning down the exact contours of a situation or of a person's character, marking pointed observations that fit the situation like a glove, sticklers for accuracy, knowing how to back away from an argument one can't win, and how to argue persuasively when one can win, penetrating beyond the surface appearances, getting the inside scoop, making inferences, testing hypotheses versus being unable, testing hypotheses, refining one's knowledge, easy, skillful sociability versus being unable to find people who appreciate the fine points of one's knowledge, generous sharing of knowledge and advice, social sophistication. So tie those themes back to Eros, what you really love passionately, with your money, your partnerships, your themes, and your relationships, tied to Chiron, the wounded healer, which is in a quincunx back over to Mercury in Scorpio at 22 degrees. And guys, incuncses, 150 degrees apart, have nothing in common. This communication is really challenging. So I wanted to highlight that to show you this is no joke. What you do now with your mouth, your mind, and how you speak is imperative. The other thing I want to bring up is Juno sitting next to Mars, Hecate, the Sun, Venus, Black Moon, Lilith, all in the 6th house here. Oh my goodness. I hope that you can appreciate the 6th house energy that Sag is sitting in the Eastern time zone. And that Sag is really trying to fire us up. The only thing in retrograde there is Black Moon Lilith. All the energies are willing to move forward. All the other energies are moving to the solstice in Capricorn. But Black Moon Lilith, not her. She's sitting there at 4 degrees and she's sextiling Pluto and quincunxing the ascendant in trining Ceres. I'm not going to break all those down, but you can go into them for further study. But I do want to say Mercury here. I've talked about this deeply perceptive mind and, quite profound in your thinking, keenly accurate, keenly instinctive. All right? But Mercury is moving forward towards Black Moon Lilith, who's coming backwards. So you see this. There's going to be a conjunction. There is going to be a conjunction. And when that hits in December, that's going to be rather intense. So careful, all things 6th house. 6th house is ruled by Virgo and Mercury. It's the house of hygiene, health, the body, daily routines. And with fire in Sag, we're being asked to move out in the way that we've been doing things. Lethargicness is coming to mind here. I see this word it's just flying towards me as I'm sitting here. It was like, talk about lethargicness. Because of all this sitting and stewing and this mercurial energy being held, it's caused us not to move out in who we really are and what we're capable of. It's caused us not to be able to move out in our own philosophical truths, okay? Sag is philosophical truths on the Saturnian horse, moving out, okay? He is going towards an aim ruled by Jupiter, okay? There's going to be an opportunity here with Juno partnerships, Mars, Hecate, Sun, Venus, Mercury approaching to do some great work of action. And I would imagine if you honor your own chart and whatever you work with in your own modalities, doesn't have to be astrology, although it could be very beneficial, but however you work, you honor the guides and the gods and the goddesses that are partnering with you this lifetime, that which is lined up with you. And I could promise you, by 2026, you will be primed and pumped for some potent, energetic opportunities coming to us. And with that, I want to thank you. Blessed be, and may you have a blessed December season, solstice, and full moon in Gemini and new moon in Sagittarius. Thank you.